Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this blockchain workshop. Before we get started, if anybody just came in, I posted a sign-in sheet in the chat. So make sure you sign in because every sign-in gives you an entry to a cool swag prize if you win. And with that out of the way, I would like to introduce our special guest, Professor Danling Jiang, who specializes in finance. Her and her team will be leading this workshop. Thank you so much for coming, Professor Danling. Please take it away.
Thank you, Danny, for the invitation. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to the workshop. So today, my team and myself are going to talk about blockchain, crypto, and Web 3.0 and the revolution. Myself, I'm a finance professor, and I also co-directed the Blockchain Business Lab and the Center of Entrepreneurial Finance in the College of Business. A little bit what we do, and the Blockchain Business Lab, we work with faculty and student teams and collaborating with industry partners to explore research opportunities in terms of application of blockchain technology. The center is a platform for student and faculty teams to support entrepreneurs to deal with the financing issues they have in the process. I myself, with my student volunteers, we have founded the Stony Finance Lab.org, in which we share a lot of information, resources on learning about investing, blockchain, startups, etc. So if you have registered for our session today, we're going to add you to our members list. You will receive our free newsletter. If you are not interested, you can always unsubscribe. In particular, on our website, we have a page dedicated to blockchain and cryptos, and we put together some ratings for the beginners. It's what we call crash course. It's a short list of rating, and you can start learning about blockchain if you have not had prior exposure. Then we have a bunch of other resources that's updated every week. So today I'm going to start with a presentation on blockchain, crypto, the revolution. Then my team, Evan from AMS, he's going to talk about Web 3.0, and Lolita from AMS and CS, she's going to talk about her research on music NFT. Anna from MSF, and she's going to talk about crypto exchanges. Lastly, we're going to be joined with Seth, go through some panel discussion questions, then answer your questions in the chat box. So feel free to enter your questions in the chat box along our presentation. We will answer those questions at the end. So let's start with some quick introduction of blockchain, right? So blockchain is a distributed and secured ledger. It's different from our existing model, which is centralized ledger, right? So right now we have, for most of the companies or platforms we run, the database is centralized stored, so it has a single point of failure. However, with decentralized and distributed technology, we're able to save hundreds of thousands of copies of the data, and there's no single point of failure. Every node is connected to other decision nodes, and peer-to-peer transaction becomes available, right? So I'm going to borrow a chart from the recent big ideas of ARK Invest 2022 to understand the role of blockchain for our economy. In the past, when we started to have internet, we used to think internet is just one of the possible channels for us to receive information and to record transactions, right? It's along with radio, TV, newspaper. But over the last 2-3 decades, and the developing internet has demonstrated that internet is in fact an infrastructure on which we can build all kinds of channels to receive information, to communicate, and to enable transactions. Similarly, the public blockchains will and is being improved as a kind of infrastructure. So we have already cryptized a lot of anything we call value, right? We can have cryptalized currency, cryptocurrency, crypto equity, crypto commodity, and crypto arts, which are NFT. Then on that, we also have companies, no longer called companies. They're called decentralized autonomous organizations, which is from our algorithm, not based on CEOs or founders, right? So that's sort of the big picture of the blockchain can be and can become in the near future, right? In particular, Art Summit talk about the blockchain is the infrastructure for 3 revolutions. So this is the 3 elements I'm going to focus on today. Right. So the first one is called the money revolution. So we're going to talk about the role of Bitcoin for money. The second one is the financial revolution, in which we're going to talk about yield earning and decentralized finance. Lastly, blockchain also brings us the internet revolution. So we're going to shift from corporate-owned platforms to user-owned platform, which is the Web3 we're going to discuss. Okay, so let me start with Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin, we're going to now consider Bitcoin is private monetary network. And speaking of money, so I'm going to talk about all those points in terms from the perspective of finance, right? So speaking of money, and we typically define money to have 3 important features. So money has to serve as a store of value. Money has to have unit of account, which means we can divide them into equal sized subunits, and money has to serve as medium of exchange, right? So money can be different from currency if currency doesn't serve as the store value. So this is the problem we're facing today in our existing and current fiat monetary system. So the fiat currency can have unlimited supply. So the government or the Federal Reserve can decide how much money to print, and the money holders have no strong control, right, of what they can do with the supply. Since the COVID-19 in March 2020, Federal Reserve has doubled its balance sheet. So you can consider the balance sheet of Federal Reserve is more like efforts of the Fed try to expand the monetary supply. And you can see that 50% of our existing balance sheet was printed, right, was expanded in the last 2 years due to COVID-19. So this is essentially telling us the supply of the money in our hand can be worth less and less. This has been seen through inflation rate, right? If you look at starting from 1913, when we index $1 to a 1,000, right? So how much is that dollar can buy us today in terms of purchasing power? So this is measured by the dollar index. So it started at 1,000 in 1913, but today it's only 35.9, which means we have had over the last 100 years, we have a decline of close to 97% of the purchasing power of the dollar bill. And dollar has been one of the strongest currency in the world, but this is what we have, right? So this brings people worry and concern, which gives rise to Bitcoin as a new form of money, right? So now it's not the money controlled by the government, but it's the private monetary network where the money supply is capped at 21 million Bitcoin. So no one can print additional Bitcoin after the cap is reached. And so far we have mined 19 million Bitcoin. And so we're approaching to the upper limit. So given the limited supply and the demand will rise over time when Bitcoin is adopted over time, and it will serve as a good store of value over the long horizon. So that's one of the main reasons why people started to look at Bitcoin, and institutions started to adopt Bitcoin in their treasury because of that store value feature, which is absent in fiat currency. So the second point I want to talk about is the DeFi revolution, or I would want to broaden it to considering the yield earning on crypto assets. So it's closely related but slightly different, right? So think about the economic environment today. We actually have a low yield environment relative to the history in the last half a century, right? So this is the long-term treasury yield, 10-year treasury yield. Basically tells you how much money you can earn in the long term if you put in the safest asset, the treasury bonds, right? And we have come down from 1980s, like 15% to today to about 2%. During COVID-19, it's below 1%. So if you put your money in treasury for 10 years, you are making less than 2% a year. So this is low relative to the inflation rate we have, and that push people to consider other alternative assets to give them yield on their savings. So crypto assets provide such kind of alternative, right? If you look at the crypto banks, what kind of yield they offer. So I'm not talking about decentralized banks. This is centralized. You actually give the bank your crypto asset, they're going to lend out on behalf of yours, and you receive the interest. A lot of cases is single 5%, 8%, 10%. It could be double digit 15%, right? So this is really attractive for asset holders who's looking for yield. So that makes crypto assets attractive in general. In addition, the development of decentralized finance has been revolutionary, right? Because blockchains are permissionless, anybody can use it, and it's open source, right? A peer-to-peer transaction is very easy through blockchain. You do not need a financial intermediary to be that middle person, right, to facilitate the banking services. And also it's fair and open, and you don't have to have a bank account and have even a ID card in order to use the decentralized protocol to perform the banking function. And also the trading of crypto assets continues. They're 24/7, and we have instant settlement. So we don't have the issue of 100%, 150% of the shares are shorted, right? So that's another advantage. Also, blockchains are censorship resistant, and the decentralized finance has minimal human involvement. So it can be more efficient and can be easier and much cheaper to use and to enable peer-to-peer transaction. So from the chart, you can see that decentralized has grown tremendously in the last 2 years, although recently we have had some setback in the space, but it looks like being recovered, right? So lastly is the revolution on internet, the Web 3.0, or the play to earn model, right? So again, this is the chart from ARK Invest Summit. So we can look at the past internet like models, right? The business models as initially we have to pay in order to use the internet. So that's the pay to play model. Later, it's free to use, right? We can use Facebook, we can use Instagram, TikTok freely, but we're participating in building the network. We get to use it freely, but we don't get any monetary value out of our participation and building of the network. In Web 3.0, which is enabled by blockchain technology, we're shifting towards a play and earn model, in which the users, through their participation and the help building the network, they will own part of the network. right? So one of the example is Axie Infinity. It's an online game on blockchain. And the users, you can see that the users, they can play to earn, through their participation, earn tokens of this game. So basically this can be considered to be ownership, right? And also there will be rewards to stakers, right? If you have the token you stake in, and they're gonna give you rewards. And the project team will take up 21% of the stake, right? And this is their unlocking schedule. This is from Algorand, their long-term distribution schedule. Again, you can see that it's probably a little bit hard to say, right? They have the rewards, they also have the participation incentive. So the green one is to basically give you incentive to participate. And the orange one, right? The orange one, they have ecosystem support, they have contingent rewards. So basically you can earn tokens, not just being rich, having money to pay for the token, but being part of the contributor to the network and ecosystem. You can also earn the ownership. So taken together, blockchain is a revolutionary technology. It's shaping the way we transact, we store data, and we participate in building a network, right? First of all, we have the first digital monetary network, Bitcoin, and we have crypto assets earning much attractive yield than savings in the bank. We also have the play to earn ownership model, which allows everybody to be part of this system and to be owner of the system. So it's really gave us a promise of a more open, fair, and borderless economy. Okay, so that's my presentation. So let's go to my team. Evan is going to talk about 3.0, followed by Lolita and Anna. Then we'll go back to the panel discussion. So
my presentation is kind of about Web 3.0 and a little intro about me. I am a DeFi engineer in the crypto space. I primarily work on a protocol on Ethereum, and I am also a double major in mathematics and applied math. And I will be talking today a little bit about Web 3.0 and trying to, I guess, inspire and give you guys ideas for, you know, it might be a little bit too late for this hackathon because we're already midway through, but for future hackathons and future ideas, and to just get your creativity going in like how to build and what to build in a decentralized Web 3.0 world. So a little bit about Web 3.0. Basically everything that you can think about in the traditional world exists in Web 3.0. It's this alternate reality where everything is decentralized and you have all of the benefits that Professor Danling talked about earlier, and it's a really wonderful place to build things and to have the opportunity to build things as well. Here I just listed a few hackathons, notable hackathons that were going on throughout the year. There are so many more to list. I just, you know, these were the first that came to my mind that you can look at to find out where to participate. And you know, there were over many millions of dollars that were put into these hackathons because people are very interested and they want to bring new builders, new programmers into the space and incentivize them to build really, really cool things. So a little bit about DeFi. DeFi is kind of a replacement of the traditional financial system, and it's a global financial infrastructure that is being built up right now that will eventually replace all of the traditional finance system. And so if you think about anything in the traditional sense, you have like a bank, for example, and you go to that bank and you deposit money, you use their financial products, you withdraw money. You all of a sudden there's a crypto bank in DeFi where you can do the same thing, but instead of interacting with people, you interact with a smart contract. And the same can be said with you know, all kinds of financial assets like real estate, stocks, how you buy and sell things, just anything you can think about will have an analog in the DeFi space. And here I want to kind of show you guys a brief give a brief tour of some different DeFi products that are out there already that are very popular. This first one is SushiSwap, and SushiSwap is an automated market maker. And what that means is that instead of having a intermediary central institution holding your money when you're swapping it back and forth, it's instead held inside of a smart contract, and that smart contract disperses the proper amount in terms of like how much you're giving into the smart contract and how much you're going to get for the other currency. And this is kind of the classic layout of what an automated market machine looks like. There are many, many hundreds of forks out there, and it's pretty incredible across like, you know, the hundreds of blockchains that are already out there, that this design is pretty set in stone and doesn't really change. And the code itself doesn't really change underneath it as well. So you can really like port it over to different blockchains. You can update different versions and modify it to, you know, be better than the original version, but the original version works pretty well out of the box as well. This is another example of a DeFi website. It's a Rary Capital, and basically they're just a borrowing and lending market. So if you have a crypto asset and any token that you want to you know, supply as borrowing, you can do that, and you can earn interest for supplying that crypto asset. And then you can also withdraw, or you can like leverage your crypto assets and as collateral and borrow against it. And so let's say you put in like $100, you can get a borrow supply rate, and then you can use it as collateral, and you can you know, withdraw like, you know, $80. And so you have all of a sudden turned $100 into $180 to you know, use for different purposes. Another one is Olympus DAO. Olympus is a functions as a decentralized reserve currency and is experimenting heavily in trying to create a decentralized version of a reserve currency. Currently, the US dollar is the world's reserve currency right now, and Olympus is taking inspiration from that and putting a decentralized twist where instead of the US government controlling the US dollar, Olympus controls its token OHM, but through a smart contract. And all of the laws and regulations, instead of having to talk about that with lawmakers and get consensus and go through politics, you know, it's just done through smart contracts. So there's never any arguing between the smart contracts. So the next part I want to talk about briefly is kind of NFTs. NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens, and they are digital assets that live on a blockchain. And so another way to think about them is, so they're called ERC 721s, and this is a type of smart blockchain primitive, kind of basically a data object that is always unique. I guess like a dictionary or a hash. Never mind. That's a bad reference. In comparison, the cryptocurrencies that I was talking about earlier, those are all ERC20 assets, and those have different properties where you can have multiple ERC20 tokens of the same properties and the same types. So like if you have one US dollar and another US dollar, they're both the same. You can do the same thing with them. If you have one NFT and you have another NFT, those are both unique. And so even though they might be similar, they're not going to be exactly the same. And what people do with NFTs is really an open question at this time. It's really whatever you feel like you want to do. This is an example from this metaverse virtual gallery where this person has bought all of these NFTs, and you know, they own them through the blockchain. And so since they own them, they decided to display them in a gallery, which I thought was pretty cool. And you can, there's a lot of, I guess, like, you know, different kinds of I guess what I'm trying to say is like you have a lot of flexibility with what you can do with NFTs, how you design them. And I guess I'll also mention that NFTs don't necessarily have to be artwork or digital artwork or any kind of like entertainment, or like they can't, NFTs also function as financial assets as well. Although that is a more rare use case, there is that flexibility, and it's really up to the imagination for what you can and cannot do. Another example is Axie Infinity that was mentioned earlier. This is just I want to show a picture of what it looks like. This is what an in-game metaverse economy looks like. So instead of going to work every day, taking some sort of commute route, showing up in your office, doing some work, and then taking the commute home, you know, we went from that traditional structure to now remote structure, where now you don't have the commute, but you're still showing up in an online environment and you're still doing some sort of work. And this takes it one step further, where now you're not really showing up to a specific company, you're showing up to a specific project or a specific blockchain. And you know, you show up, you have your digital assets, and you use those digital assets to you know, I guess like make money and be financially productive and earn a living. And this is just an example of, I guess, what that world looks like. But really, again, I just chose this example to give a, you know, as big of a spread as possible to really like stoke your guys' imaginations. And finally here, this is a game called Rome, or this is a project called Rome DAO. And the idea is that they're launching a kind of grand strategy style game where it's another metaverse game. And it's, I guess you can think of it as like kind of a risk game where you have this map and you as a person are basically a soldier, and you can decide where to go and who to fight with, or what alliances you have, what armor you're going to have, what your character attributes you're going to have, the weapons you want to do. Maybe you don't even want to be a soldier. Maybe you just want to be like a blacksmith or a farmer or a scavenger. And in that case, then there are in-game opportunities for you to complete different quests to obtain these digital assets and then sell them for some sort of monetary value. So that is it for my presentation. I just want, hopefully that was a nice kind of quick overview of the different things that we're seeing in the Web 3.0 space. And I think a lot of it is kind of similar but different from what you've seen and what has been traditionally available so far. Like for example, this Rome game, it looks like just a regular PC game, but they have plans to move this to mobile, and the entire back end, instead of running from a centralized server, everything is decentralized and runs on the blockchain. And so with that, I'd like to conclude my presentation. Thank you for listening.
That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Evan. And thank you, Professor Jiang, for introducing me. My name is Lolita Nazarov. I'm an AMS and CS major. And I'm going to be talking about music NFTs, specifically the ones that are traded on Ethereum blockchain. So I guess the inspiration behind this research is the music industry in general. So music is a highly centralized industry, one of the most centralized. There's 3 major record labels, Sony, Warner, and Universal, that control the lion's share of the industry with an estimated like 70% of market share. And so NFTs present an opportunity for artists to deliver their music directly to consumers without the need for third-party intermediaries such as a record label. And so in the first like 4 months of 2021, the NFT volume has exceeded over 2 billion, almost 10 times more than the entire NFT trading volume. And it's the NFT ecosystem is still at its like early stage. And the technologies are premature, but this has a lot of potential in the music industry. And so to further explore a new medium for releasing music, our objective is to find the features of music NFTs that have made them so successful and popularly traded. And you might see this diagram on the side. It's kind of just, you know, shows the in and outs of like a high level view of how, to, put your NFT on the market, how an NFT contract works. So I can just explain it for like a few. Basically, what happens is like if you want to put your NFT on the blockchain, you check that the file title description is all accurate. You digitize the raw data into a proper format, and then this raw data can be stored on an external database outside the blockchain, or it can be on the blockchain. If you choose to do it on the blockchain, you have to pay gas fees. And then the owner yourself signs another transaction, which includes the hash of the NFT data, and then this is put on a smart contract. And so then after the smart contract receives this transaction with the NFT data, the minting and trading process could finally begin. And the Evan mentioned it before, but the main mechanism for making this happen is the ERC 721 standard, which is basically a contract that allows fungible tokens to be traded. And so by this approach, NFTs could be linked to a unique blockchain forever. So that's high level view. So the platform that I use to extract all this data is OpenSea. And so on this website, you're able to view the many features. You're able to view total volume traded, 24-hour percentage difference, 7-day percentage difference, floor price, number of owners, a lot of different variables for every single NFT collection. And so my research, I just extracted 13 NFT collections from the top 30 NFT list, all minted via something called the Wyvern protocol, which I'll get into a little bit later. And all the other NFTs out of the 30 were minted via another protocol. And OpenSea, they provide an API for developers to fetch this data, but I didn't have to use that. I actually use something called Dune Analytics, and you do not need to use an API if you're working with Dune Analytics. Dune is a web-based platform for querying Ethereum data by using simple SQL queries from pre-populated databases. So instead of writing like a specialized script, one can just query the database to extract almost any information that resides on the blockchain and then get the CSV for it. And so queries are just used to specify what kind of data should be returned. Maybe you want to know all the DEX trades that happened today or the total value of stablecoins. And like I mentioned before, the NFTs that I minted were all by means of the Wyvern protocol to keep a controlled variable. And so what the Wyvern protocol does is, in order to trade digital assets, you need a protocol. And what this protocol does is just facilitate trustless peer-to-peer exchange of NFT assets. And so two of the variables that I tracked were floor price and volume. So floor price is the lowest amount of money that you're able to spend to own an NFT. And the floor price, more specifically, is linked to the lowest price of an asset inside of a collection. So there's an NFT collection, and then in every single collection, there are a fixed number of assets that the owner attributes to this collection. And so this floor price is actually set by the individual who owns the NFT. And it was originally used by economists to represent how low a price can be charged. But for the NFT market, it's one of the most widely used metrics. And so this spike actually comes from the collection by 3Wow, who's already an existing pretty famous artist from Spotify, and he chose to put his music on available to be traded as NFTs. And you can tell that the volume in January 2021 reached over like 100 million, which renders the rest of the bars pretty much almost invisible, even though the other like all the other months had volume in the hundreds of thousands or in the thousands. So those are just a few variables. And also worth noting that music NFTs, especially the ones that are traded, they could be classified into two categories. So ones that are already established by a renowned musician, and those that were created by members of the NFT community that decided to put up a collection. So these NFTs on the slide were actually created by members of the community. And there are, these are only 3 out of the 13 that were chosen. And for all of them, we see a skewed right distribution. So it seems that a lot of people actually started trading like at the inception of the collection. And it's kind of interesting to compare like these NFTs versus NFTs that were created by someone like The Weeknd or Calvin Harris, because if you look at the trading volume for those collections, it's actually pretty stable. It has a uniform distribution. So lastly, it's worth like looking at what do NFT holders look like, and what's driving the hype behind the market, which people are contributing to the growth of these NFTs. This data shows that the Ethereum NFT market is open in the sense that the majority of participants are small-time purchasers, which makes sense. So a lot of people just purchase 1 or 2 or 3 in a collection. There's also great inequality in the music NFT market in the sense that top 17% of the NFT owners control over 80% of the NFTs. So it follows almost like a Pareto distribution. And then one guy just owns 1,000 NFTs, just random guy there. And buy and hold is a passive investment strategy in which an investor buys a cryptocurrency and holds it for a long period. So we see in Song a Day, there's the number of holders kind of like plateaus, but in like the more popular NFT collections, it just keeps climbing and climbing. And these two on the bottom were just created by like DIY musicians. So either it's kind of interesting to look into like, why is it constant over time? Is it because the number like the owner limited the amount of NFTs, or just people lost interest, whereas the numbers keep like climbing, and so does the fan base. So it's very much like worth looking into. And so for further work, we can make a correlational analysis of floor price versus volume. We can look more into the long and short-term holders of the NFT collections, and also to see which NFTs would be more popular in the future by investigating like their future sales price. And also it would be very much useful for the community to construct like a network of NFTs to see like what is the relationship between this collection and this collection. Does a growth in one collection instigate a growth in another collection? So there's a lot of more work to be done. But and that concludes my presentation.
Everyone, my name is Marija, and I'm gonna talk today about crypto trading in New York State. I'm in my last semester of Master's in Finance program at Stony Brook University. So what you need to know is bit license. A bit license is the common term used for a business license for virtual currency activities with a lengthy list of terms and conditions. Issued on the 8th of August 2015 by the New York State Department of Financial Services under regulations designed for companies. Since this is designed for companies, the way how it influences you is limits for you as individual investors physically presented in New York State is that you get limited cryptocurrencies centralized exchanges options, and therefore you have limited number of cryptocurrencies available for trading. And those are for crypto exchanges that you can trade with in New York State: Gemini, Coinbase, Coinbase Pro, and Bitstamp. Now I'm gonna move to my Excel document, which you can find on Stony Finance Lab site. So you have all information that you need once you decide to start trading with crypto. So you have summary, bit license, breakdown of fees, main platform features more detailed. Then you have number of cryptocurrencies supported, security feature, types of transactions supported, maximum trading amount, etc. Also, you can find promo codes for all 4 apps. On the second sheet, there are other entities that have bit license in New York State, which are less important for you because they are mainly for institutional investors. Thank you very much for your attention and good luck.
Okay, thank you everyone for the excellent presentation. So let's now move to the, I think we have a panel discussion. Meanwhile, make sure you enter your questions to the chat box. We'll get to them at the end. So I want to invite Seth to join the panel together with Evan, Anna, and Lolita. We'll start with maybe asking questions. Seth can start answer, then followed by other panelists. So how did you get interested in the blockchain space? Any advice or experiences that you want to share from either the perspective of investors, engineers, or entrepreneurs? You can choose anyone's perspective, sort of share your advice or experiences. Go ahead, Seth.
Sure. So my name is Seth Rosenthal, and I'm in the business honors program studying finance. My interests lie in both blockchain technologies and algorithmic trading, which just uses rules and mathematics to make trading decisions. I've been investing in the blockchain space since about 2014, when I was very young. And I was in high school at that time. I was working on this really cool project. There was a forum at the time for white hat and penetration testing. And someone was mentioning Bitcoin and Ethereum blockchains. And that kind of set me down this pathway of all of these emerging technologies and protocols that can solve problems in the social good space and in reality. Because we do have imperfect processes that blockchain protocols can solve. I'm going to pick one of these questions that Sammy Lin dropped in, and I really like this question. What stops someone from screenshotting an expensive NFT and claiming it as their own? And that kind of gets to the heart of what blockchain is. And blockchain technologies, without getting too sophisticated, is a public way for me to verify ownership of anything. So someone could look on the blockchain and see whose Bored Ape Yacht Club this is. And it would be very easy to tell that your NFT is a fake and that you have screenshotted this expensive NFT and you're kind of cherry picking it and showboating it and saying it's mine, but we all know it's yours. It's not yours, and that it's owned by this entity who we don't really know because it's anonymous. But we know that it's theirs and it's not yours because we can prove that.
So maybe Evan or Lolita or Anna can join. Anything you want to share with the audience regarding either they're investors or engineers or entrepreneurs in the space, or they want to come to the space as those roles. Anything you want to tell them? Evan.
I guess I see some questions as well that I want to answer.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Let's do the questions first, and then I can come back to that. So Kitty Lou asks, how does an NFT get created? And I hope I don't butcher the technical process, but basically, let's say you have some sort of picture, a digital picture that you've been working on, and you want to create an NFT from that. There is a so you have this picture, it's on your computer, and you have to bring it onto the blockchain somehow. And the way that you do that is through the file storage system called, or the file storage standard called IPFS. And through this process, it's called minting. And so you kind of, you basically put the different, let's say you have a collection of pictures that you want to make into an NFT. You will put that, upload the smart contracts onto the blockchain. And then once they are ready, you get ready and you unveil them to the public, and then users can go and mint those NFTs by basically signing a cryptographic transaction, and in exchange for money or just gas or in exchange for some sort of value, they will get the NFT that you put on the blockchain through the smart contract. And then Christopher Ryan asks if OpenSea only works with NFTs that are stored on the Ethereum blockchain, and how to figure out where you want to put your NFT as well, because there's so many blockchains. And so OpenSea, I believe, works on a few blockchains right now. And there are a lot of other OpenSea type forks where, it's not OpenSea, but it does the exact same thing that is on a lot of different networks. So OpenSea isn't your only choice for being able to store and access NFTs on blockchain. I think OpenSea is very synonymous with the Ethereum blockchain, but it's not like a hard-coded requirement or rule that it's just OpenSea and Ethereum. There's a whole other world. And how do you figure out what blockchain you want to mint your NFTs on? Well, a lot of people have been starting to mint their NFTs on blockchains that have lower gas fees. And gas fees are paid basically to keep the security and integrity of the network and prevent malicious attacks from occurring. It's kind of like just a tax to the blockchain or to the blockchain miners. And so a lot of users, you don't want to spend hundreds of dollars minting NFTs on an expensive chain like Ethereum. And so like a big reason why a lot of NFTs move to these side chains and different other chains is it's cheaper. And besides the cost, who is your audience? Is your audience going to be on what network is your audience going to be on, and what opportunities are there to use your NFTs? If you mint your NFT on a blockchain, does it have any utility, or does it just sit in your wallet collecting dust? Or can you maybe like use it to start accruing some sort of financial yield farming? Or can you use it to get some sort of, set you up for some more NFTs in the future, or what have you? It really depends on the incentives that you're trying to create. And then I guess for the last, and then what is the mechanism for protecting an artist who sells an NFT, one chain, purchaser mint the identical? There is no mechanism that protects an artist from doing that. And as there are like some collections where you can literally do what you said. You can take a famous collection, you can make an exact copy of it, put it on a different blockchain, sell it, and then that's that. And nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to stop you. It's still technically unique because it's on a different blockchain. And this is actually a common way that people can scam you, is by creating these fake collections, pretending that they are a real collection, and then making you buy getting you to buy the fake one. So it's a very serious problem where it's hard to verify and make sure that the thing that you're buying is in fact a legitimate thing, and you're not just being socially manipulated by some sort of bad actor.
Okay, so thank you for answering the questions. So we have a lot of engineers or computer scientists today, right? So if they want to get into the blockchain space, where do you see the most exciting area for them? Or anywhere is interesting. Lolita, do you have anything to share?
Yes, but also someone, before I answer that question, someone also asked the question, what stops someone from screenshotting an expensive NFT and claiming it as their own? So this kind of question is like the same question as asking if you steal the Mona Lisa and like make a copy of it or something, like how would that be different from like looking at the original Mona Lisa? It's very, very similar. Even though you took a screenshot of the original NFT, it does not mean that you have ownership rights to this NFT. Every single NFT is made with a specific contract address, and it's minted to the blockchain before like people are able to purchase it. If you screenshot something, like it just exists as its own entity, and it's not the same thing. Also, someone further elaborating on what Evan was saying about like the different the different chains to put an NFT piece of art or make music on. The two most popular chains to put on OpenSea are actually Ethereum and this other one called Polygon. So one of the main differences is Ethereum is like proof of work consensus. Polygon is proof of stake consensus. Proof of stake requires a little bit less energy, and also on Polygon transactions could be handled in bulk, which greatly reduces gas fees. But on Ethereum, the transactions are handled individually, so gas fees must be paid on every single transaction. So those are just a few things to consider if you want to put your artwork on, to be sold on OpenSea. And so a good starting point, to go back to the very first question, like, will be a good starting point for engineers? I think for me, Evan actually introduced me to Dune Analytics like months ago, and it's a great platform to be able to look at data, on like any chain, and use it for like analysis. The only skills, like technical skills that you need for it, are just SQL, SQL abstraction. You're able to query any data. Also working with the APIs of the chains. If you're a computer science major or something, delving into the OpenSea API, or like the Polygon API, and like figuring out how it works. Fetching an object like from OpenSea or something could tell you a lot about which like features to look for. Also I think you can I think a great way to get into the NFT space, I'm not sure about, maybe Evan can talk about like DeFi, but for NFTs, you don't need to actually purchase like your own money. You don't need to purchase or work with like real money. You can do it, you can actually get fake Ethereum from something called testnets. Like there are a lot of test networks that allow you to get fake Ethereum. And by doing so, you would kind of understand like how to acquire Ethereum, what the test nets versus the main nets are. And then if you want to put like an artwork on an existing, on like a test net, for example, you would go through the mechanism of, first of all, putting it on IPFS, and then using like your fake Ethereum to pay for it, and then make a smart contract in order to finally mint it. So I guess like going through the mechanical steps of like making an NFT, like purchasing fake Ethereum. There are many tutorials online how to do this, but I think that would be a great starting point.
Okay, great. Anna, do you want to share anything? Last thoughts? Okay.
I think I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to just bring your attention that there are many challenges, also risks on the blockchain project. So there's, for instance, there could be fraud, it could be attacks. I think a few last week, right? There was like hundreds of $1 million attacks to some of the DeFi protocol or the bridges, well, a lot of protocols. So
They were reimbursed though, so it's all good.
Yeah, but still, it's $300 million lost, right? For the treasury.
Like but like even though that bad stuff happened, it's good to see like it still worked out.
Yeah. So I think my point is, I think there's a lot of things you can work on as a computer scientist and engineers, just helps to solve the problems, the challenges in the space. So the space needs to grow and need to develop. The ecosystem needs to mature. We have to deal with those challenges. We have to find better solutions to make those protocols more resilient and safer, trustworthy by ordinary people. So I felt like this is only the start of building this ecosystem. A lot of you who have the skills can be an important member of those communities. And a lot of us are really learning by doing. And we are just into the space maybe for like a year or two, whatever. But we have felt the great changes that the blockchain space can bring to the society, which is the theme of this hackathon, right? But that's all we have today. Thank you very much for coming to the workshop. We will provide the recording on YouTube, the channel under Stony Finance Lab, and we'll send the recording information to Semi for distribution in your community. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.